We are back on the record after taking our lunch break. The next witness is here, Mr. Vandenbraden. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Bandon Brandon.
All right. I need to swear you in. If you could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly, sincerely, and truly declare and affirm that the testimony you will give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can put your hand down. And could you spell your last name for me, please, then?
Sure. Vandenbranden.
And do you currently work for Associated Bank?
Yes, I do.
What's your current position?
A senior branch manager.
And how long have you been in that position?
I've been in this position here since 2018. So, what, 3 years? 3.5 years?
Is there a certain branch that you manage then?
Correct. I currently manage the Green Bay East location, located on 2241 Main Street in Green Bay.
All right. We're going to start with Mr. Michelle asking you some questions, and then Attorney Bullocks might have some questions for you.
Okay.
Mr. Michelle, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and start with your questioning of the witness.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Judge. Once again, good afternoon, Mr. Vandenbreden. Now, I know I will ask you the same as the judge just to make sure I will go over a few things to let you know what I intended to do. Some of the same questions you just asked you, I'm going to, I will ask you again regarding your name and your title. Um, I will follow through. Then at some point, you might see me looking down because I have some questions jotted down, okay? And ask you
Okay.
some questions. It is likely I will have you read a few documents also. There might be a few, where you stop each other and I ask you questions regarding that. First and foremost, Mr. Vandenbreden, I just want to know, I've worked with you before. How should I address you? Is it Nate okay or Vandenbreden, Mr. Vandenbreden?
Nate is fine. Nathan's fine. Mr. Vandenbrandon's fine as well.
Thank you very much. All right. And with that, I will begin. Nate, let me ask you again, your title, you just mentioned your current title, that is Senior Branch Manager?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, all right. And it seems like you mentioned you've been in that title since 2018, about 3 years now?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And prior to that, as it related to this case, you can go by yes or no. You were a market branch managers by the time when I was at Associated Bank, correct? During my
That
tenure.
is correct. That is correct, yes.
And briefly, okay, if you can, what do you do? What did you do as a branch market manager back then?
As a market manager, I was responsible for one branch directly, as well as multiple branches that reported indirectly to me through their manager.
Okay, excellent. Yep. So again, as I will mention to verify, at the East Branch, we call it, which is in Bellevue, where I was, hired under you, you were both the supervisor, the branch manager there. There's an assistant manager, etc. Then it goes down below, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay. I just want to ask you briefly, just a little bit of a story, okay? That is, I'm just curious on that. Prior to working in the bank, what did you do?
Prior to working in banking, I worked
Yes.
in retail as well as sales.
Sales. What specific sales did you do?
Auto sales?
Auto sales. So car salesman?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you sales car. All right. And beside that, for your current position, do you have any type of certification of degrees that you hold for that?
For my current position,
Yes.
I have a bachelor in business administration, concentration in finance, and associates in accounting.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And I want to ask that, okay, to you. Of course, it's just a straight question. Your attorney here might, but I just want to know that, will you be honest with your testimony today?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. And as part of your dealing, you know, in sales and everything, I just want to know, have you ever been, you know, because you want a positive outcome to be dishonest in any way?
I have not prided myself on being honest.
Excellent. That sounds great. Um, Nate, back, we're gonna go back a little bit to 2015, 2016. You recall, as I work at the East branch, at some point we're gonna get straight to it here, that I filed certain complaint to you, correct?
Yes, you brought up a situation of confrontation.
Okay. Within whom that confrontation was?
I believe that confrontation was with Mr. Kyle Paulson.
Okay. And is it fair to say to, in between those complaints, in plural, I mentioned a few times also, we talk about Barbara also. Is that correct? I mentioned
If I
Barbara.
remember correctly, there was one specific complaint that you brought up to me.
Okay. Now, I know you mentioned the Kyle Paulson. Now, what I meant to say, that's why I say complaints in plural. So I'm going to give you a little bit. So I do have some complaints regarding some behavior that I'm concerned regarding Barbara McDonald, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And I know memory. It's been a few years. We go to myself going here via memory. So, and that's all right. So, my complaints, I have verbal complaints that I'm going to talk about. I do complain to you regarding between being physically shoved aside, physical contact being made to me by Barbara, correct?
I believe you've discussed having discrepancies or disagreements with Barbara.
Okay. Now, I want to be direct. I'm going to try yes or no, okay? Did I complain to you regarding physical? And you think about it, but yes or no? Physical, being pushed, being physically get in my space, push me aside.
No, not physically hit or
No,
not physically
I never
touched.
report that. I never report that to you.
You take that back. You did report that one time where Barbara did hit you. That was an email you provided to me.
Okay. And without no repetition, but you also you acknowledge that. I know you just mentioned the email, but I was talking about verbal complaints that when I just talked to you about that, right? Beside the email, you did confirm that.
I do not remember a complaint other than that email.
It seems you just take back. You just confirmed the verbal with me earlier. That
I confirmed that you had a verbal altercation with Barbara, but I did not confirm that you verbally told me you was recipient of any physical contact.
Okay. So it is only one time that your testimony that I complained of Barbara
Correct, yes.
shoving me aside. It is only, and that's the same time with Kyle. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
That's the only one time, no more.
That is the one I have documented, yes.
Okay, you are very certain of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's correct? Okay, all right. Thank you very much. So it seems like it's already established that my complaint was one. We can jot down one here, right? One complaint to you. So that's kind of established here, right? We can move on from that then, right? Okay. Let's go here. I'm gonna go back again to find. What I'm seeking, George, please, is the same exhibit with Nate email that I sent to the one that said I have. This is what I can read earlier. Exhibit numbers, I don't know that. That's what I'm gonna show up in a second.
And just for ease of reference, if I may ask, is this the one where there's some handwritten notes about?
January 24th, handwritten notes, yeah.
Okay, this is exhibit number 15, Judge, from respondent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, you should be seeing exhibit 15 on your screen right now.
Excellent. Thank you.
I see it.
Yes, can you see that, Nate?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we're just gonna go over that, okay?
Okay.
On the very top, you can see it's me from you, January 25th, 16, and hostility.
Yes.
And I'm gonna get you acknowledge that the email that I sent you, correct? That's the one email we're talking about, the one complaint, correct?
Correct. Yes.
All right. If you can please read through it for me, okay? And I'll
Do you
answer.
want him to read out loud or to himself?
Yes, please. Aloud. That's what I meant to say.
Nate, Barb is keeping me hostile continuously while transacting a not on us check. Barb hit my arm and shoved her way into me. That's happening twice today. I then asked her politely to come speak with me in the office. I was telling her how I am nice to her and everybody, and whenever I do, I keep getting hostility. While talking, Kyle rushed in, as usual, again accused me of yelling at Barb, and further commended me to get back to the teller line. I told him I'm having a talk with Barb and need some privacy, and I told him I'm going to close the office door to speak with Barb. Kyle told me that's not going to happen and put his foot in front of the door, impeding me from closing it. It's assumed his fighting posture. I need your help with this. Serious. Thank you.
Thank you much. And that January 24th, I'm going by memory, I believe it was a Sunday that I sent you that email. It was a Sunday, that date.
I'd have to look at a calendar.
That's okay. You don't have to answer to that. You recall also that I call you on your personal cell phone and leave you a message?
I have to look back and probably.
Probably, yes. And I left you a voicemail with those following messages. Again, that's not word by word, okay? That Nate, this is serious. I really need you here. I'm being attacked in those lines. Is that ring a bell? Is that help anyway? Jog your memory anyway.
I do not recall the voicemail.
Okay. Do you recall receiving a call from any other colleague in that regard?
That many years ago, I don't recall.
You don't recall? Do you recall coming to the store on that date?
I remember coming to the store that weekend. If that's the weekend, I don't remember if it was Saturday or Sunday.
It was a Sunday. So you recall at least it was a weekend on Sunday. I can pretty much assume. So, but you recall you came to the store, right, that day?
Yes, I recall I was shopping with my family.
And you recall, yeah, with your family. So, yeah, and you recall we were still open, right? Because
Yes,
yeah,
the branch was open.
Mhm. What was your interaction then, if any, at the branch?
I believe I came to see how things were going, as I do every branch that I walk into, whether I'm shopping or just passing by. I believe at that point you stated there was things we needed to talk about. I advised I was with my family, and I believe we discussed the following day.
Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Now, I don't have the date for that, as you mentioned, the following day. You do, beside that, I know you mentioned the following day that we discussed that. You recall that date?
I do not recall the date.
Okay. One day after, or you don't at all? No memories of it?
Most likely, I'm very urgent when it comes to matters at the branches, so I have no doubt it was the next day.
Okay. And you meant by that, did you approach me in that regard? Or?
What do you mean approach you?
Well, you say urgently the following day, but you're not sure of the day. What I mean, did you call me in the office, if that's what you meant, like at some point?
I believe you and I talked in person.
Uh-huh. In that what regard?
I believe we discussed in person. I believe it was the back office of the Green Bay East location. And we discussed the situation that happened over the weekend.
We're talking about that situation here you just read the facts of?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I'm just gonna go back again now. You talk with me only? Only the two of us in that office then?
At that time, yes.
That's your recollection. While I'm there, I'm just gonna go that. Do you remember any other time that I talked to you, that I convoke you to talk with me and Kyle personally?
There was another time that you and Kyle were present. Yes, I do remember that. I don't recall if it was this location or if it was a different time.
Well, I'm gonna refresh your memory. It had to be the same location because Kyle worked only at the East Branch. It's the same location. Is that
Then,
correct to say? Is that fair to
then
say?
fair to say yes.
Okay. So yeah, it's not anywhere else. It's at the East Branch. That's the only place Kyle worked. So with that being said, again, I'm going by memory here. That was a different time when I call you. I complain, talk to you to get Kyle because I want us to, and you have us sit together. Is that correct?
Correct. I believe the other time was a verbal altercation between you and Mr. Kyle.
Okay. So again, what I want to establish here, Mr. Nate, I know you're going by memory, but I just want to establish. I know, again, excuse me for that little allocution there. I know you prepare for this. That case has been pending. You're being called. I just want to know where you are, based on that, that there was multiple time that, I reach out to you, and those were verbally, not just in email, they were verbally. That's what I want to establish, okay? So I just want to let you know where I'm at with that. So I know you mentioned that was only one time, never other time, but that's where I was going with that, just to put some light for you on that, all right? So could you recall any other time based on that now? Any other time that I complained to you?
I recall there was the one time prior to that you were not liking how Barb was assisting you on systems.
Okay. And when we say assisting on system, it is, of course, regarding the pushing aside, right?
No, I'm regarding the navigation of our computer systems and pointing out where to, input things, click on things, as she was your mentor.
So I didn't like the way she was teaching me. That's what you're saying?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So there's no other time that you can account for that I talked to you regarding pushing me aside, physical confrontation or verbal abuse, I will call it, saying bad thing to me.
Objection to the term verbal abuse.
Right. You can't use words like that because you may think it's one thing and someone else thinks it's something else. So if you're going to ask him, be kind of specific.
Thank you for that. Absolutely. So yes, and I was, again, my train of thought here. I was asking you, there's no other time regarding Barbara that I complain about being pushing aside that you can count on beside that?
The only time that I remember you and I talking about physical confrontation was this instance.
Okay. Nate, do you recall while I'm still was at the East Branch that I called you in your office? I was in the back vault, okay? In the back vault. You know where the back vault is. I know you can recall that. I was there doing some work on the computer. That I step outside discreetly to you, then something did happen. And I complained to you that Kyle dropped the drawer right on my chair in the back of my shoulder. And basically kind of nick my shirt. It was very close to get my skin. Do you remember that?
I do not remember that, no.
So I know memory can be fading. Are you denying that factor? Or
I'm saying I do not remember that conversation.
you just do not remember? Okay, thank you. Um, based on this statement you just read here, that's a complaint that I made to you. You address it. You say you address that sometime. You don't recall when. Tell me about that. When you addressed that, what happened? What was discussed?
When I addressed this situation after, you and I discussed what transpired, what led up to it. I wanted to dig into when you made reference to Barb hitting you. At that point, I gave you permission to show me how that hit was. At that point, you showed me an open hand hit, which could have been a brush or like a tap. And I asked you at that point, could it have been something because of close proximity of the teller line in the front there that she bumped into you? And you reply back as maybe.
Maybe. And I'm gonna point to that little note you put there. This is the note where you noted that.
Yes, it is.
Now, don't look at the email date. You don't have a date there, right? Is there a date
I
for
do
it?
not, I did not date it, no.
And it's not possibly it will be. It's definitely not the same date of the email, right?
It is not the same date of the email. I know
Oh.
that I was shopping with my family and we addressed it after.
Mm-hmm. And when you investigating stuff like that, hit, etc., I know you take note. Date is not important to you of when
It was right after the situation. I just did not date it.
okay. And I can see the email is likely you printed, right?
Correct. I
Okay.
had that in front of us when we talked.
Okay. And I'm not that good of an actor, but I will ask you. Now, I know you don't recall, you already said you don't recall the exact date or even the exact time, right? That
I do not know.
you did not. You don't recall who else would have been there. That's my
I believe this was you and I talking.
okay, just me and you. Nate, I want to ask you for a favor, Nate. It's just for reenactment purpose. Just if you can, could you show me that open hand? I'm not sure what that is. English is not. I don't know what I want to say. An open hand hit. What did I demonstrate to you? How did I demonstrate it? Could you give me a little bit demonstration, please?
So basically you kind of came in and, tapped my arm like that.
So you were sitting
I stood up next to you
on my left or right?
on your right.
So you stand on my right.
Correct.
Okay, you stand on my right, and then what I do with my right hand?
I don't remember if it was your right or left hand.
Okay, yeah, I'm just trying to know actually what an open hand is. What an open hand here is, and what do I do again? Could you please show me what I do?
Showed you like a backhand, like brushed up against or tapped.
Just so something like
motion.
that.
Correct.
That's
Yes.
open hand. Okay. Okay, that's the motion it was. Now I know you know also how that small office, your office, right? That was your office.
Yes. The back office. That was a shared office, but generally that's where,
Yeah.
I set up shop.
Exactly. It is. It can be shared, but it was mainly your office. I know of that. We can share it if needed. So it's just that when we are in that office, I got a good memory. But when we are in that office, okay, it's a very small office. Would you say so?
Correct. It's not a very large office.
Yeah. Would you say so? At any point, we can barely fit in the two of us if we were to be side by side. Would you say so?
I think we can fit side by side. Yes. It's not that small.
Yeah, but you're a big guy. It's okay. So thank you for that. So I stand side by side. Where? Because it's an office. Where on the office? I know there's a desk behind the desk, in front of the desk.
Well, at that point, I would have been sitting behind the desk and you would have been sitting where customers sit. At that point, we stood up and you showed me basically right in the corner of the desk there. I would-
Okay, so
You're
it's in the
right.
corner of the decks. Okay, then after that I show you that, what happened?
We sat down and continued to have a discussion.
Okay. And what's the resolution then, based on that, your allegation of that meeting?
So we discussed how to properly bring up confrontations. If something was not up to your expectation, that instead of handling it directly and confining people to an office, that at this point we're going to work through me and bring instances up. And we're going to work civil as we are all instructed to based on our colleague handbook.
Okay. I'm just gonna jump ahead a little bit now. Judge, I think I'm done with this for now.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just gonna jump ahead a little bit, Nate, to, and by the way, did you report that to HR
I believe I was in communication with human resources. Yes.
based on that email we just talked about, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And we're gonna move a little bit now. It shows, as I'm going by the date, on February 5th, 2016, I filed a complaint directly to HR. Are you aware of that?
I was aware of it after the fact. Yes.
Okay. And with that complaint, of course, I outlined the same thing, that fact that we just go over here, right? Mainly, that's one of the main points. Now, prior to that time, January 24th, okay, February 5th, I know we did find one more complaint. You said there was none, but we found a second one. Were there any other complaint and as it comes to that day of February 5th, were there any other complaint that I told you that was alarming to me that I get shoved aside again? If you can recall. I know we go over that.
I do not recall. No.
Okay. So that's February 5th. It's okay. I just sent that. Okay. All right. And with that investigation that occurred with HR Mary Coddington, based on the complaint then I make to the on February 5th, based on that email that I sent with everything, you participate in that, correct?
I did not participate in that.
Okay. But you want bear with me. You mean HR did not contact you to discuss that?
HR contacted me after the fact, after the investigation was complete.
Was totally completed, then that's when you were aware of it.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Do you recall, Mr. Need, do you recall that what I did mention earlier regarding my last complaint to you, that you suggesting to me, would I be willing to transfer to the DPO branch permanently? Do you recall that?
I do recall that. That was after if my memory serves me correct, that was after the investigation with your complaint to human resources.
So you recall you suggesting that to me?
I recall having the discussion with you, yes, and
Thank you.
offering that to you.
Thank you very much. Now, I understand, of course, I did accept that. We'll just listen to my allocution there. So you did approve that, right?
The transfer?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, I know that you go around all of the stores, etc., and counting. Now, after that I transferred to the DPL branch, I was there permanently, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, I was there permanently.
That was your home branch.
Yep, become my home branch. You do, let me go that with that question so I stay in line, okay? It seems like immediately after Barbara was get a promotion from you, is that right?
I believe sometime after Barbara was promoted, correct?
Yeah, and that's if my recollection from a relationship banker to a assistant branch manager.
Yes, Barbara was promoted to the assistant branch manager of our Manitowoc Festival location.
Thank you. And that was based on your recommendation, right?
Based on her tenure, her expertise, and my recommendation, yes, and her
Yeah.
application.
Your recommendation. That's what I'm seeking for. Thank you. But it is the same for Kyle, right? Kyle Paulson. It seems like right after that a transfer, he did receive a promotion.
Mr. Paulson was also promoted, yes, to a universal banker
Based on your recommendation, right?
based on his qualifications and his ability to serve the customers, yes.
Answer the question, yes or no. Okay, with the your recommendation is the one that I put it. Is that
Yes,
yes?
I hired him as a universal banker from a teller.
He was promoted. Thank you. Yeah. Now thereafter, Nate, Barbara McDonald at some point did also, after the promotion, work at the DPL branch. Is that correct?
I believe there was a few days that Barbara helped out over there.
Do you have those dates?
I do not have those dates.
Do you have any records of those dates?
I don't believe we have records of those dates.
There's no way to track that?
I don't believe we do. I don't have access to the human resource system for time cards.
Right. But you don't deny that Barbara has a work at the DPL branch where then I was then. Is that correct?
I don't deny it. We've had people help out where staffing needs are to ensure that we can help the customers.
Thank you. And you have, of course, often came visit on a weekly basis. I would say at least once per week, right?
At least once a week, yes, between my
spend
branches.
hours with us. Yeah. And when you do stop by, you still engage in, even though Megan is in charge, but sometimes you do engage in, what I would say, not engage in doing the work itself, but interacting with me, right?
I interact with all the colleagues that go into in the branches that I go into, yes.
And some of the interactions, sometimes you ask me to perform certain tasks, right?
So what tasks are you referring to?
Such as, I know, taking the trash for you, taking the trash at the DPO branch for you.
I'm sorry, did you say taking the pressure?
Taking the trash.
Oh,
taking
the trash?
Yeah.
Everybody was responsible for cleaning and taking the trash in the in-stores. There was no cleaning crew.
Yeah, that is correct. But what I said is, sometimes as you visiting, you will ask me to take the trash.
If I visit a branch and see that the trashes are overflowing, I do ask the colleagues to clean up and make sure it's presentable to the customers. So if I would have come in and seen that, I would have asked somebody at the branch to take care of it, yes.
So that's a yes, you did ask me, right? A few times.
I don't recall if it was specifically you, but I'm just telling you, if I see it, I want to address it, so it's cleanliness for the customer.
And the same for mapping the floor. You want it to be map the whole floor.
It needs to be looking presentable for the customers, yes.
Okay, you would ask me. Okay. And Nate, next thing I'm going to reach you over here is that you do recall. First of all, let me just go back that way. At the DPO branch now, that we move to the DPO branch, would you say there was we have at least 3 assistant manager while I was there, from the time that I was there? that was in that position that keep 1 hour, either, I don't know, quit or, at least 3?
I'd have to look back at the records, but I mean, if one assistant manager leaves, then we are going to look for another one. Yes.
Okay. And the two ladies that were there, I can't, for some reason I missed their name, but I, of course, recall Davis Wolf. Davis Wolf, you recall of Davis?
I do remember Mr. Wolf, Mr. DeWolf. Yes.
You the one that hired him?
Yes.
Okay, right. And I do believe at some point Davis Wolf was terminated. Is that correct?
I'd have to look back at his records.
Okay. So you make decision on termination, from what I understand, right?
I do make decisions on hirings, terminations, and if he was terminated again, I'd have to look back at that to see.
So what I'm saying here, because it is your branch technically, I know even the manager will do the termination. You will be aware. You will sign up on it too. It's not just.
I would be a part of it. Yes.
Okay. So you just cannot recall.
I can't recall the specifics.
So that will mean you cannot recall the reason of his termination also.
Correct.
You do recall that position of assistant manager at some point, it was intermittently, I would say, stay open, right?
Until we find a suitable candidate, yes.
Exactly.
There'd be an open position.
Either people quit it, and you can ascertain here all the while it's when there's those gap, I will call them, it's me then permanent there as my home branch, Megan, of course.
Mm-hmm.
It was Josh that was there momentarily. Josh was gone. You recall, right?
Yes.
Josh? There was one young girl, I can't remember her name. She was soon gone after. She was a universal banker, etc. I can't remember her name, unfortunately. She was gone. So it was technically just spent a little while. Then it's me, Megan, that been like a fixture there for a while. Up until my termination, I will get to that. It was me, Megan. Then we have Rachel, that's a floater then, that's come by a few times. Is that accurate?
I'd have to look back at what the staffing was, but yes, I remember those individuals.
Okay, yeah. And what I want to say, what I want to bring my attention, of course, what I want to bring attention to is that for the assistant manager, there was a gap. My sense, I was there, me and Megan have been one of the consistent employees there full time. That's that in that time frame. That's
Again, I'd have to look back at the records, but I know you were there for, I think it was a little over a year. Megan was there for many, many, many years. I'd have to look back at the tenures of the other colleagues.
Yet you do recall, first of all, let me go with that first one actually. You do recall sometime after Davis terminated, that was year 2017, by the way, correct? Oops.
I believe
You
so.
here, sorry. Yeah, it was 2017. We're talking about 2017. That's when Davis was there. I can recall that he was there around sometime right before April. It didn't last long. And during those gap, you recall that at some point, again, what I want to bring attention to is that me and Megan was a fixture there. People was coming and going that I asked you for a raise. Do you recall that?
I do not recall that conversation.
Do you recall that when I asked you for a raise, you asked me to put it in writing in an email to you?
Objection, asked and answered.
Well, he just said he didn't recall you asking for a raise, so I don't know how he can then recall you asking for a raise and telling you to put it in email.
Thank you, Judge. That's okay. We'll move on. Okay. Nate, do you recall that you had applied for that assistant manager that opened in at the DPA branch?
I do recall you applied for the assistant manager at the DePere, yes.
That was an open position, right? That's what it's called?
Yep, open rec.
Okay. And you do recall that you are the one that conducting my interview?
That is correct. I do recall that, yes.
Okay. First of all, is there any way you're the one that conducting that interview instead of Megan, the branch manager?
I don't remember if that was when Megan was out. I know she had some time she was out of the office. But I remember I also usually take part in all of the assistant manager and manager interviews, as well as final interviews with my current position.
What I
So
can
I would just object to this line of questioning on interviews for this position that Mr. Michael applied to as an assistant manager on the grounds that it's not relevant, given the ERD's ruling on the timeliness issues.
You can answer the question. Go ahead.
this is for you, Mr. Yeah, you can answer. You want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will repeat the question. Was there any reason why you're the one that conducting that interview instead of the branch manager, Megan Vinterwetering?
Again, as I stated, I don't recall if Megan was out of the office at that time. It was, I believe, during my scheduled branch visit. You were present, and we set up the interview for that time frame.
I'm
But
going to, if I may, I'm going to help you and jog your memory. As I bring to attention earlier, me and Megan was the one fixture at that branch that's been there for a long time. Everybody else was new. Once we're conducting a meeting, Megan have to be there, okay? She have to hold the line. Anything to sign, it's gonna be either her or me. So if we are together, I'm just making some logical with you, okay? With you to help your memory. So she have to be here. Nobody else can be there. Okay?
So
Logical sense. I'm just trying to make a logical sense.
Let him answer the question, Mr. Michelle. I've been giving you some leeway, but you can't keep talking over people. You got to let them answer.
Thanks.
So if memory serves me correct, there was multiple times for FMLA reasons Megan was out of the office. At that point, we were bringing in other people. I do not remember if this was this instant or not. And to answer your question also, for you or Megan to sign off, everything is under dual control within the bank, meaning that any two colleagues can sign off on things that are required to be signed off on under dual control.
That's not my questions to you, but I'm gonna try again. You give me quite of a lengthy answer. What I was all trying to do is to jog your memory is that based on the logical sense that Megan and I was the fixture there, I'm kind of establishing that she just should have been there. Would that, if you can just agree with that, or yes, that makes sense logically.
You can't tell him to say yes. You have to wait and let him answer.
Yeah, it's a yes or no. That's what I mean.
So my answer is no. There is instances where the managers are not present, as I stated earlier.
Thank you, Mr. Vandenbrennan. Thank you. That's what I was waiting for. And during that interview, Nate, you recall that you asked me at some point you will have me step outside because we're taking calls or making calls to your upper management.
That is not what I recall. I recall asking you to step out to help the teller line. As I remember, we tried to fit the interview in when the branch was shorter-handed.
So you do recall it was short-handed that time?
Yes, when you have open positions on a branch with a set number of staffing, take one person out of there, it does put pressure on the rest, yes.
Okay, so you do recall that. Thank you. And with that interview for the assistant branch manager, do you recall when you end that interview, you asked me what saving face mean? Do you recall that?
I do not recall that, no.
Okay, you don't recall. But would you, I will try that question, the judge will get in. So, but you are not denying, you might have said that, have you?
I do not recall, and nor would I understand why that would be a relevant question in an interview.
Okay. I guess let me kind of rephrase my question to see if you can answer it. I say, you wouldn't deny that you say that, do you?
I don't deny it. I don't recall saying it.
Okay, all right, but you don't deny it. I guess that's what I wanted. And do you recall in that interview that you explained to me in short, again, this is in short, okay, that why would you hire me for a position like that where there's people that is better than me?
Usually towards the tail end of the interview, I do ask a question as to why you. Why do you think you're qualified for the position compared to other candidates? I don't necessarily I don't necessarily say better than you. I just ask for your honest answer as to why you. And that's every single interview that I've ever done.
So Nate, I just want to know if you denied or not what the statement I made to you, that you say that why would I hire you for the position where there's people that is better than you? Yes or no?
I probably,
Okay.
yes, probably asked a question similar to that.
Okay. That's pretty much it. Thank you. That position that I interviewed for, the open position, did you follow back with me on it?
Yes, I did.
How?
Would have
Did you
been in person at another branch visit.
in person? And
Yes,
you meant by in person, sitting down with me in an office?
yes.
What did you mention?
I mentioned that we were not hiring you for the De Pere Festival position, that I wanted to continue your development and get you ready for that role.
Hmm? One moment. I will follow through with that. What type of development?
So there would have been, in order to get ready for an assistant manager position, it would have been compliance related, coaching related, sales related. I believe at the time there were certain categories that you were excelling in, others that you were behind in. So that would have been a total package of development to get you ready for that assistant manager role so you could lead by example.
Are you saying that I did have a performance issue?
A performance? No, I said there was aspects of your banker expectation that were above goal and some that were below goal.
And that was the reason?
Alongside that, there was no leadership or development portion of your training to indicate that you were ready to be an assistant manager yet.
How did you intend to give those type of development?
So typically when we take a banker, and this would be for your case as well, I look to, first of all, train them on compliance. The assistant managers are responsible for the internal compliance of the branch. So making sure you had a full understanding of that, as well as being a member of management, starting to train you on some sort of leadership aspects, coaching, mentoring, developing how to handle stressful situations, everything like that as a leader and assistant manager of the branch.
By the way, when you say compliance, if you can be in specific, what do you mean by compliance?
Things like
What
overall compliance of the branch, drawer audits. It would have been, things like our required documents. There's inspections that we have to do, inspections of our retention logs, ensuring that the retention of sensitive documents and are retained properly, destroyed properly per the company guideline. Making sure that as an assistant manager, you had a full and true understanding of all of that.
Is it fair to say, Nate, all what you just described here, the dual checking of the log, the vault, um, um, releasing, safeguarding personal information of customers, did you see that's all of my daily duties? That's part of my daily duties?
Safeguarding information, dual control, that is the daily activities of every colleague here within the bank on the retail side.
So that will be, so I have experience in doing that daily, right?
As a banker, yes. As a supervisor responsible for that, no, you had not had that yet.
Okay. And now that you're talking about supervisor, you would agree with me, as I did mention the gap on having assistant manager, just me and Megan. There's many time in the branch that I was the lead person, right? That's there to open or close, open and close.
Well, every colleague is responsible for opening and closing. There is not one said lead person. Those that have been there longer can help direct, but nobody is put in a position of the lead for the day. And that's why we instill dual control with every colleague.
I'm going to focus on a senior. That's mean what I meant by that. Let me explain that. That's somebody that's been on the branch the longest then. That's what I meant by that. Would you say yes?
And you've been there most likely. If you're saying yes, then I will agree you were there for at least 2 years or a year and a half.
Yeah, by the way, I didn't mean to say yes to you again, but yeah, it just okay. All right. So it is established. I've been doing those work that you just mentioned here. So it's based on your discretion, right? It's based finally on your discretion. There's not a tabulation, and what I meant by that, there's no tabulation, a marking, a matrix you're coming with. It's definitely based on your discretion, right?
So to be honest, the banker roles as a banker, universal and relationship, the bankers do assist across the board in doing basic audits, being a dual control for a drawer audit, for instance. So there is some basic stuff, but not on the supervisory and the leadership side.
Thank you, Nate. Nate, are you aware of any issue and everything that was discussing regarding my tenure there? There is a performance issue at all? Is there any documentation of that?
If I remember correctly, there was some conversations you and I
Yes
had.
or no? Don't mind. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try a yes or no. If there's a record of that or not. Yes or no?
Yes.
There is a record of my performance issue.
A performance issue, no. Performance coaching, yes.
Okay. So, okay. I guess I'm trying to, you give me two answers at the same time. There's no record of performance issue. No.
No, I believe you were always rated a solid performer.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it a lot. Okay. All right. So now I'm just gonna move on then to ask you that position. Do you recall that it is ultimately was handled to Sarah Nook?
Yes, I believe I transferred Sarah Nook to that position. Yes.
Okay. All right. And Sarah Nook, I would say, it was from what we call the West Branch. It was on Mason Street, right? Inside the festival.
That is correct, yes.
And Saranook was hired at the same time with me that I get hired, right?
When you first came on, yes.
Okay, we had hired together, actually, with the same recruiter. Okay, so an open position is that established. I interviewed for it. The decision was taken. I didn't have it. That this is all established. Sarah were then transferred to hold that position. That's that. In that regard, I want to brush over with you, and you can go. We're gonna try that by yes or no. Okay. You do recall and that actually was at the Suamico branch.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Do you recall meeting with me at some point at the Suamico branch?
At the Swamico branch?
Yes, meeting with you. I know that's not my store, but someday I was there for some reason. You do we meet there?
Don't recall that was one of my branches. If you were helping out and I came through for my branch visit, you could have been there and I could have met you there.
Okay. Do you recall at some point that I advised you that there was a little concerning that I have regarding the vault, that it's supposed to be dual physically, and that's to both people to count that have been signing, forced to sign without physically, you know what I mean? Without physically there to do things, just sign, because you have to, that's part of the compliance. You have to sign, it can't stay blank. Do you recall that, by the way? That's what I'm asking.
I do not recall you bringing that to my attention.
Don't recall for. And the compliance, you would say that's the way that I just explained it, right? It's part of
Correct.
the compliance. Two signature and they have to be physically there, right?
Correct. In order to open the cash vault, for instance, two people have to be present because two keys are needed.
Exactly. And the same for signing it. Okay. All right. Now, I'm just gonna jot back here. You think that I jot down and I'm gonna go back with you here. Beside talking with me, okay, and I'm just gonna one back here. Beside talking with me, what you mentioned with your investigation, you also discuss the complaint that I had with you for Kyle and Barbara. You do discuss that with them too, right? You did?
You're talking the one on January 24th?
Yes. That's why I go back a little bit, come back on that.
Yes, I did.
You did? Okay. What was your conclusion?
My conclusion to the situation is tensions were high. There was better ways to handle frustrations on all parties. And my conclusion was that we are going to move forward, respect each other, and abide by the code of conduct and our colleague handbook.
Okay. And I didn't even want to go over that again. And I know because of the frustration, we already established that. That's why it suggests me to move to transfer actually rather than gun. Okay. All right. Nate, it seems like we could be almost done here. Okay. Okay.